thank you to Brian for your support on Patreon. Hello everyone, my name is Vivian and welcome to episode 3 of Following the Plot, my what the hell is the schedule? I thought it was going to be weekly, but it seems to be whatever the hell kind of podcast. It's a storytelling podcast about telling stories, and it's based off of the first piece of advice I received after starting to play these visual novels about following the plot, pursuing what is interesting. And what is interesting to me right now for this episode is Redd the Shibe. He is the co-author of the Clifford route in the Smoke Room and is the principal author of the upcoming visual novel, Glory Hounds. I talked to him today about how he got started with the Echo project in general, his contributions into the Smoke Room, and discuss the upcoming visual novel, Glory Hounds, in as many details as I could squeeze out of him. Don't want to get too many spoilers in there, but I hope you look forward to that game. I know you enjoy the Smoke Room, and I hope you enjoy this, my conversation interview with Redd. And let's jump into it. Here we go. All right, so how you doing today, man? I know it's 2. So for me, I've only been awake for a little bit, but I don't know. How has your day been?
It's been pretty okay. Like, it's just been a lazy Sunday for me.
Nice. Daylight savings. Have you
Yeah,
changed all the non-automatic changing clocks in your house?
yeah, there's one clock I can't reach, so I'll have to, like, get on a step ladder for that. But, like,
Ugh.
other than that, I changed most of the clocks in my place.
Good. I have 2. One is in the bathroom. One is my my oven, and I can't figure that fucking thing out. So I'm just gonna let it be off for half a year.
My my oven is like the time on my oven is never correct. Like, I set it like once a week, and it like a week later it's like an hour early or an hour late.
The worst one is my car. I you learn if it's really persistent. You learn how to do it around the time that it wears patience through, but then like it's a half a year later, you fucking forget.
I don't think I've ever had. I don't think I've ever met a person who changes their car's clock for daylight savings time.
We've spent a good amount of time on daylight savings, so let's get. So why should everyone play the Cliff route only and send you $1 million for Glory Hounds development?
Well, first of all, Cliff is Dutch. I am Dutch. We don't use dollars.
Cliff, he is Dutch. You are Dutch.
Yes.
The identity of a Dutch person being an echo that inherently creates a sense of otherness that gets explored in the Cliff route. In order to write someone as an other, you need to be familiar with who they are, which you have a leg up on being of the same nationality, but also of where they are. You told me here recently that you were so familiar with the world of Echo that you actually wrote an added to canon prequel of
Yes.
sorts in Benefits.
Yeah. I
I was tragically unaware that was written by you.
did. Don't feel bad. It's kind of an old shame.
An old shame.
Yes,
Damn.
I don't really like talking about it.
Well,
It's
I'll
been like it's been like 6 years or something.
Yeah, everyone gets better at whatever they do if they do it for 6 years beyond what they started, or not what they started with, but whatever. You take one point in your progress, you move along 6 years, you're going to be better at it. So, yeah. So to not specifically talk about it itself, but for the audience at home, can you go into how that came about?
I started working for Echo because like around the time Echo started, I emailed Howley because I enjoyed Echo so far, and I wanted to like donate because at the time Patreon didn't have like PayPal, and I wanted to donate some money for to development.
Mm-hmm.
So I donated some money, and Howley and I got talking, and I mentioned that I like writing stuff, and I sent him some of my writing, and he enjoyed it. And then I ended up writing some like short stuff for him. And
Nice.
eventually, around like 2017 or something, he asked me if I wanted to help write on what was then known as like 1915,
Yeah, I remember that.
which ended up becoming the Smoke Room after we decided that 1915 was like a way too generic title.
Yeah.
And all, I I got attached to Cliff like early on. I think originally Howley was going to write William and McSkinney was going to write Nick. I'm not 100% sure on that, if that's factually correct, but I think that's the way it was. And then, like, I was going to write Cliff because Murdoch didn't exist back then, which is
Really?
also which is also why he doesn't get mentioned at the end of the Leo route. I've heard people talk about that, like Sam basically damns everyone, like Kershaw for hurting Nick, Kershaw for hurting
Yeah.
Cliff, Kershaw for hurting William, but he doesn't mention Murdoch. And a lot of people make jokes about Sam hating Murdoch for like the math he makes him do, which I think is hilarious.
That's
But
funny. That's interesting. I didn't even notice that.
yeah, Murdoch's creation happened when George joined the team. He made Murdoch because he wanted, like, we noticed that like there were a lot of pictures in Echo taken in 1915 that would tie into the smoke room, but they didn't have a photographer.
Whoa, that's a
So
good
George
point.
came up with the so George came up with the concept of like creating Murdoch.
Nice. That's the kind of stuff that I find so interesting about like fleshing out a story is, you get kind of wrapped up in the mystery and the lore and the characters and whatever, and then someone comes along and they're like, you have a bunch of pictures. Who's taking them?
Yeah, that's basically how it went.
That's so cool. And so you contribute with benefits. A couple years down the line, 1915, you're in the throes of progress and development. And when about did it change from what it was aiming to be with specific writers on whatever of whatever route they were going to it starting out with the writers as they are dedicated now in what is now known as the smoke room?
Um, I think around the time when the smoke room really got started, how like Adastra was really taking off, and I think Howley moved on to Kimia pretty early on. He was still writing Nick. He was still writing. Okay, let me. Yeah, he was still writing William and Nick. McSkinney had moved on to writing a role to play, like because of like personal reasons, and yeah, I was still doing Cliff, and like after a couple of Nick updates and like one William update, I believe, uh, Howley left to focus on Kimia, and it was just George and me. And George wanted to write William and Nick in addition to Murdoch, and then I continued writing most of Cliff's route. George is George. George is still a co-writer on the Cliff route. Like he writes several scenes. He writes about a quarter to a third of the cliff route. I'm sorry if I'm like blabbering. It's
No,
like
no, no,
I'm
no, no,
trying
no.
to
I'm
form
very yeah, I'm very interested in hearing this.
sentences. Yes, but that's how it happened.
That's very
And
interesting.
yeah,
And so, the shift happens and it gets to the point where now it's a two-man writing team now.
yeah.
And of course you have, your artists and you have a whole team. How big is the smoke room team about now, including everyone that works on it?
We recently hired a couple more sprite artists. We hired another CG artist, Talbat.
Mhm.
I think they're called Talbat Draws on Twitter. Uh, but yeah, like lately we've really expanded. Originally it was just like me, George, Star, Cardamon, and yeah, and a couple more people. But like recently we kind of had too much work for just a couple people,
Yeah.
and we really started like hiring new people. We got Mo to work on music, who has been amazing.
Absolutely.
And yeah, like
Speaking of music, I just
yeah,
I remembered when it was I think it's in the William run. I don't remember, but it might have been. I don't remember when it happens, but Cliff shows up and "Pop Goes the Weasel" starts to play.
yeah. I think that was George's idea.
Yeah.
I think it pops up in Murdoch's route, and then I used it for Cliff's route again when he's talking to Murdoch about like when Murdoch wants him to speak Dutch. That's when
Yeah.
I play Pop Goes the Weasel in.
Oh man, it's such a delightful little breaking of the tension, and that
Yeah, I really liked writing that. It was fun.
the the tension is a very important aspect to the smoke room. Obviously, it's in the Echoverse, very closely related to it. As we're gonna get to talking about soon, is Glory Hounds, which is also kind of in the Echoverse, but fairly distant, fairly
Yes.
distant. But for the tension for games very closely tied to Echo and the town and everything that goes on there, for an audience member, that's the only perspective I have as an audience member, it can be an incredibly emotionally driven experience to read, Echo in the smoke room, and Art now Arches is in there too. And then if you go back, there's Route 65, and of course, can't forget Benefits. There's a lot of it in there. So for someone who's writing for it, I'm interested to know, how do you deal with the more tense and emotionally gripping moments, because there's a lot of them in even just the one route of Cliff's route, incredibly gripping moments.
All writing tension is hard. Like I think the most tense scene I've personally written was the attack on the camp,
Yeah.
which was like it's kind of it's very hard to describe. Uh yeah, like tension is really hard to write because you need to write like I think oh God, sorry.
It's okay. It's okay. It's for the record, English is not your first language,
Yeah.
and this is not something you do very often. And we haven't even conversed out loud very often with each other. So it's totally understandable that this is going. We've only been talking for like 10 or so minutes. So there's going to be a little bumpy in the beginning, but as far as I'm concerned, anyone that can write convincingly and fluently and seemingly naturally in a language that isn't their primary language will forever get my respect. abundant respect, because that's an incredibly difficult thing to pull off without drawing attention to it. So do not worry about stumbling a little bit here and there. I
That,
promise it is
that means
okay.
a lot. That means a lot. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely.
I think what the key of what I'm trying to say is that writing 10 scenes is difficult. Like you need to write you need to capture people's imagination without like over explaining things because
Yeah,
I think like the more people can imagine things, the tenser things can get. Like
yeah,
you don't want people to know what's out there in the dark all the time. You want
yeah.
them to like think about it. You want them to
Absolutely.
theorize.
Yeah, and that's something that people have gotten on me about is, I've been playing Echo games for years at this point, multiple of them, and I'm really big into trying to figure out what's going on and trying to piece things together, try to figure out where we're going with things. And that's something that someone pointed out. They were like, you put so much energy in trying to figure out what's going on, and then when Echo ended, we did not get a definitive, this is what caused the other, and the da 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 da. We didn't get that, and it was better for it because it's there. There's something in the dark that's fucking with people and leading to insane and incredibly dangerous instances and conclusions, and to still not know what is causing it, to still not know the exact nature of it. That's an incredibly powerful tool in narrative, and I can only imagine that trying to write something that's faithful to the mystery that you know more about than anyone else does, given that you're the writer, but
Yeah.
also write from a perspective of someone who doesn't know, like that is a talent I do not have and few have convincingly. So yeah, props to you and the writing team in Echo for being able to maintain that level of, we know what's going on to a degree, because I imagine that there isn't, on some novels, some shows, there's like the secret developers or writers bible. This is all the secrets and all of the integral parts of the narrative is in there. I'm not asking to know what would be in one if it is, but is there one of those for games based in an Echoverse?
I typically whenever I like build on the lore, I always ask first I ask George, then I ask Howley, and then I ask McSkinney, and
Okay,
they usually like confirm or deny certain things and tell me what I can or should try
do
or
you ever get
write.
do you ever get moments where one person confirms something, another person denies something?
Or like the two guards where one lies and the other tells the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. And you're just like, I just need to know if this person is from this place or how old they are. And then people are like, no, yes, what? Oh god.
No,
No, it's
uh,
pretty consistent.
yeah, it's usually pretty consistent.
That's good, because I remember there was some kerfluffle about the communication between the Echo writers and the Smokeroom writers, when in Echo there was a seeming gaffe concerning Sam's birthday.
Yes.
Can you speak to how that was handled?
I think it was resolved I think it was resolved. Like I passed it on from George to McSkinney.
Mhm. That's good. That's good. Yeah, because you got all these people writing all these things, trying to maintain it all. Sometimes some things slip through the cracks, but fortunately, it usually comes across as a very cohesive unit, and
Yes.
that's not an easy road to hoe. Uh,
Yeah, it's difficult, especially as we're continuing to build on it. And it only
yeah.
gets more complicated.
With branching paths and different choices and everything. Like, did you oh, what is it? Bandersnatch? Did you it's that Netflix game.
Oh,
It's,
Black Mirror. Yeah, I
yeah,
watched that. Yeah.
yeah, the Bandersnatch Black Mirror thing where they showed all the branching paths and all that other stuff, and it really made me intimidated to ever even try to make a non-linear visual novel because like how the hell does anyone manage all of the different things? I don't
That's
yeah.
yeah, that's something that looks like it looks really abstract from the outside, but like once you're actually familiar with how Rempe works, it actually isn't that difficult to make choices and have the game remember what choice you made.
You see, that's something.
Like
Oh, go ahead.
it's it seems more daunting than it really is.
Yeah.
I think the most important part is like having you can have choices, but they have to be meaningful.
Yeah.
And like if you give the player too many choices, then they just get like it's like quicksand.
Yeah. Yeah, that is something that's been fairly consistent across all of the Echo games and all the routes and all the various things. Is there usually aren't a lot of choices. It's very much a narrative driven experience. Especially some visual novels you get to basically put yourself in the role of the main character. There, you can change the name, you can change the face. You don't see the main character very often, and you don't really hear much about their story. You're supposed to basically imagine that you're them. But in Echo and in the Smoke Room, that is just not a thing. There is a very definitive story for Sam that's being told, and different parts of that story get told depending on the different routes that you play. How do you how do you picture the crux of this story being told for the Cliff route pertaining to Sam? Because in all of the routes, Sam's trying to get out, and Cliff is very much also trying to get out of Echo, but for different reason. And even then, their paths are threatening to diverge at almost any given moment. How do you play that story as a writer?
I think Cliff's route is a lot about him about like both Cliff and Sam developing as people. Like Cliff starts the story as a very like 1900s anthropologist,
Yeah.
which is like I've read like 1900s anthropology like papers and stuff, and the stuff you read in those is fucking insane. Like I cannot believe the terminology and the words and the language they use to describe people.
Oh yeah, especially indigenous peoples.
Yes,
Oh my god.
it's like and like let's just say that compared to like what I read in in those papers, Cliff is mild.
Yeah, like he has his moments of like, dude, read the fucking room here. You're going a bit overboard, but like I think one thing that does help is that he's to a much lesser extent, but he is also someone who's experienced that otherness even in his home because of
Yes,
his sexuality.
yes, and like a lot of Cliff's route is just him coming to terms with like viewing others with respect, and Sam Sam Sam's development is also about like Cliff kind of drawing him out of his grumpy little shell and
Yeah,
kind of helping him to become a better person in his own way.
yeah, because I mean, you have someone who is more open about sexuality in Sam, but also someone who has to hide it because of the puritanical pseudo reality that early America lived in, where everyone was just as sexually active and promiscuous, but they could not act like it, especially if it wasn't heteronormative. So you have someone who is more expressive, more open about it when able to be, but still pretty reserved about most things in Sam. Then you have someone who is way more open about a lot of things, probably more so than they should be, but very reserved about this very specific thing in the sexuality in Cliff. So you create a very good, a very compelling foil in the two characters.
Yeah,
And so playing
and
them off each other it almost seems kind of like you have a lot of fun playing them off each other at times.
yes, especially when Murdoch is involved. When Murdoch is involved, it's like
Yeah.
I really see the three of them as like this unit.
Especially after the most recent update.
Yes.
Is there I don't God, I don't want to I don't want to seem like I'm trying to ask for spoilers, but is there a possibility of the idea of polygamy, not polygamy, but
Yes.
polyamory being explored in the Cliff Route?
Yes, there is. In fact, that decision was made really early on, like around the first update. George and
Wow.
I, George and I decided there would be a full Murdoch slash Cliff slash Sam branch of the Cliff route.
Wow. That's really cool because it did not, like, there were hints a couple of times, like Murdoch and Cliff had a night that we kind of found out about, and Sam and Cliff had a night, and then of course there's always that kind of tug and pull with Murdoch and Sam, but like to know that it was pretty much planned from the beginning, that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, and it's going to be a full branch, and it's not just going to be a sexual thing, it's going to be a romantic thing as
Yeah,
well.
yeah. And so that's especially now that, with the, I believe it's the most recent Murdoch update, we learn more about what his personal life it has been going on. There's got to be a lot of coordination there between, Cliff's struggles of otherness and familiarity, and then familiarity and otherness, and then Murdoch's situation of being used and abused and trying to find a sense of self in a world that seems to only want to use him. That's
Yeah,
especially interesting considering they're on an expedition where Murdoch's role, it was initially just as a job, just being used.
and now he's using Cliff's mouth.
Yeah. Oh, that's perfect. That's fucking perfect. All right. So, oh goodness, I apologize. Cultural identity in Cliff. There are going to definitely be some aspects to Cliff's nationality and sovereign culture that will likely go over the head of an ignorant American like myself. What would you say is probably the biggest example of something that you included as someone who is native to a Dutch culture and can identify something and write from experience that has been unfortunately overlooked a lot of times?
Well, there's obviously the moment where Cliff speaks Dutch. I've heard like a lot of people think it's German
Mm.
for some reason, but it's Dutch. Uh, and aside, like one of the only things I don't think I've seen anyone remark on is the it's all the way at the start of his route when he shows Sam a postcard of the of what is basically Amsterdam, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah. And that's actually a really good segue because one of the first teases I've ever seen of Glory Hounds included like what appeared to either be a picture or a postcard Am I
Yes,
remembering that? Great. Yeah.
and my idea was basically a modern recreation of the postcards he shows Sam in the cliff route.
That's such a fun little detail. Oh, that's so cool. Cause yeah, we mentioned it. The Glory Hounds is uh connected but not related. Would that be an accurate statement?
Glory Hounds technically follows Cliff's route in the smoke room. Like
Mm-hmm.
technically, it
What?
happens like 120 years after, but that's like the only connection it has.
Well, I think now would be the time to officially switch game topics and talk about Glory Hounds, a game that is not out yet, but is in development and has a lot of people excited for it, me and myself included. Uh,
Uh,
can you speak a little bit about what Glory Hounds is?
Glory Hounds is a comedy story first and a superhero story second. It's
Nice.
uh, it's about a Dalmatian guy named Alex who discovers his boss is actually a masked vigilante, and then joins him as his sidekick.
Ooh.
It has
That
two love interests, but no routes. We're just going to do like a single story with like choices you can make, and those choices determine whether you're like who you're going to end up with, basically.
okay.
And it's the final choice will be made like relatively late into the story, so you're going to get like a chance to know these people before you decide to bang.
That's a novel concept in these kinds of things. You give the
Wow.
choices right up at the beginning, and then you get to
i'm
know who they are. So that you're twisting it. You're twisting it.
i'm innovative.
Yes, very innovative. Very, uh, uh, yeah, innovative. That's actually the exact word that would be used there, wouldn't it? Try to find another synonym, and I'm like, no, that one fits the most. Um, so going with a comedy superhero story, obviously
Yeah.
huge divergence from the themes of the Echoverse, which I think we can all safely say, as much as we love the Echoverse, a change of pace would not be unwelcome. It's a very unwelcome change of pace. Very glad to see a little breath of fresh air from the doom and gloom and horror that is Echo. Not that we don't like it, but sometimes things just need to be fun.
That's also a major reason why I decided to write Glory Hounds. Like, I was looking at all the visual novels. Like, oh man, it's going to sound like I'm throwing shade at other visual novels, but I'm really
No,
not.
it's okay. Everyone's
Because
just trying to have
I
fun.
I was looking at other visual novels and I found them like I really loved a lot of the visual novels coming out, but I found them all like pretty serious. Like there was Shelter, which was really funny, but
I've
like
not heard of that with Shelter.
yeah, it's pretty great.
I'll have to look that one
Uh
up. Write it down.
um but yeah, I like there were a lot of serious VNs and a lot of horror VNs, and I was like I kind of want to do something really silly,
Yeah.
and like I don't want to write like a New York bestseller of visual novels. I just want to write something silly. I want to write something fun. I want to write something people can enjoy,
Yeah,
and
something
that's enough.
light.
And that's enough for me. I don't need to write like something really important
Yeah.
to
You don't
folks.
need to make the next Da Vinci Code to feel like
No.
accomplished. That's good. That's good. And I think especially I mean I've been playing visual novels for uh in a couple of years it's going to be a decade. Oh man. I basically started reading visual novels on YouTube. The first time was on YouTube. And so the idea of seeing a game that isn't trying to be all that in a bag of chips is very appealing to me. Like there are games that are taking itself less seriously, but and that's not to say that ambition is a bad thing. Not at all. But sometimes it's nice to just see someone have fun with it. And
I
that be the
also,
goal.
yeah, I wanted like scope management was actually one of my most important things to focus on. Like when a lot of people start making visual novels, they want to do like four routes with a lot of choices, and that a lot like that's just not feasible for a one person developer. Like if you're going to write everything yourself, unless you're like an amazing writer, it's going to be really difficult. And then
Yeah.
you're gonna have to you need art, you need music, you need like
Exactly.
it's going to take years of
A
your
one
time, and you need to just make the decision of like, is this thing I'm going to work on, is that worth like 5 years of time, like next to work, next to school?
Yeah. That time management, that's something that unfortunately, I mean, I've seen it time and time again. I'll be eyeing a visual novel that's starting out and it looks promising. It looks, ooh, that could be something. What's going on there? And then I'll uh I'll check back in on the itch page like a month or two later, and I see on hiatus or project canceled, and I'm like, oh no, what happened? And it's almost always the same. This was way too much. I do not have the time. Life kicked me in the dick, and I can't handle this. And I was like, damn, man. So that it sucks that it's so common, but it's such a tempting thing. You start
Yeah,
expressing yourself creatively, and you think that this is something I want to share with the world, and then fucking bills and like naps and like shit comes up, and you're like, fuck, what the fuck am I gonna do? And yeah, so it's good that you kind of managed, and that's not to say that you could never come out later on with some big important whatever the fuck, but for now, just have something where fun is the goal.
yeah, and it's also like on a smaller scale than Echo in the Smoke Room.
Yeah, yeah.
It's
Because,
not. It's not. Yeah, it's not going to be like unlike Echo in the Smoke Room. It's also not one continuous story. It's episodic.
oh,
Like
nice.
there's a main plot running throughout, but like it's mostly episodic. Like every episode, every update will tell its own story.
Ooh, that's
With
ambitious.
yeah, it's well, uh,
I say it's ambitious because with the development schedule that a lot of developers use and has been done a lot is you get a little chunk here, and the next month or so you get another chunk, and it kind of goes from then and then since that's kind of something that you get a little bit, I don't want to say easier, but it's a lighter thing for you because you're working on one route for the
yes,
smoke room.
yeah,
So your updates come out like once every 4 months. Is
yes.
that right? So yeah, you get a lot of time to work on it, but then if you have no route divergence, you're taking all of the updates and you're trying to put one episode out as the full update. Is it fair to say that's not going to be a monthly schedule?
Yeah, that's part of my scope management thing. Like I knew if I would do monthly updates, my artists would kill me. Like they would strangle me.
Star, please put down the knife.
So yeah, I decided to do updates every 2 months for Glory Hounds.
And Lord knows if it needs to adjust later on, being open to that, because
Yes.
man, I've had a couple conversations with other devs where they're like, man, I'm like staying up all night for 3 days trying to get this update out because it's due at the end of the month and I don't know what I'm like, bro, there's a reason why you talk to your audience. Because there might be some entitled motherfuckers out there. They're like, if you don't have my update out at this day, I'm leaving. Like, fuck those people. Fuck them. They don't deserve your time. But like, the vast majority of an audience for people who like your work are going to be like, oh shit, yeah, dude, take your fucking time. You're good. Like, so being open to the idea that maybe even 2 months might be too much. Who knows? But being open to giving yourself the time. That's essentially the cautionary tale of this is.
And if you can't, like, if you do slip up, it's also important to communicate with your essentially customers, because a lot of people are paying to see your content early.
Yeah.
And investing in your project. So I think communication is a really important part of work.
Absolutely.
And I'm like kind of privileged because I don't rely on visual novels for my income. Like, I have a day job.
Yeah. I mean, that has its benefits. Sorry.
Like, yeah, that's like so other people who do like fully rely on this as their primary source of income might have a different opinion. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's always a risk because like there's always the fear that you'll do one thing that was just deemed the wrong thing and everything will go to shit, and oh god, it's a prevalent fear. But I think and you also have the benefit of having an established audience.
Yes.
You have people who are crossover, people who who are the Smoke Room fans or Echo fans or anything else, and they know that this is going to be different. There's probably going to be some people who are just like, why isn't this making me cry all the time? Like,
I've read some concerns about like it possibly diminishing Echo's horror in a way. And
nah.
I just want to say that like that isn't my intention. Like, a Glory Hounds takes place on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
And you might see like there are a few common concepts. Like, you might see some returning things, some returning characters even.
You might hear
But
the word Tibbets somewhere, but like
but like, for all intents and purposes, you can also just treat it as like an alternate universe, like some high school
yeah.
alternate universe high school fan fiction, basically.
Oh yeah, that's the thing is like even in Echo there are towns nearby that are completely unaffected. So like the idea that somewhere across the world would have no impact by one tiny town in the middle of who gives a shit in Nevada, not Nevada, it was Utah, wouldn't it? I don't know, but being completely unaffected by that thing happening way the hell over there. Yeah, if anyone lets that diminish the effect of Echo for them, that's on them. That's not on you.
Yeah, also like part of the like part of the whole lore that Glory Hounds does build on means that Echo technically never happens. Like, the smoke room happens, but Echo doesn't happen because
Really?
reasons.
Oh, reasons. Yes, reasons. See,
And
that
I can't spoil it yet because that
it's
would
okay.
spoil like part of the clip route.
That is a good point because that's something that when a prequel was announced for Echo, I was very excited, and a lot of people were. And then when it was announced that there were multiple routes, I was like, "What the fuck?" Because then you have the question of, is Echo the canon outcome of what? Like, not all the different routes of the smoke room are going to end up at the exact same point,
Yes.
most likely. So, which route leads to Echo? And now, of course, we know that Cliff's route, like probably not all of the outcomes of Cliff's route, but an outcome of Cliff's route leads to Glory Hounds.
Yes.
So that's just an interesting concept, because that, of course, leads to the possibility of pretty much every route getting a different fucking sequel. But at this point, is it
I
possible
wouldn't say that quite yet.
Is it possible that the Echoverse is getting a bit bloated?
I mean, like, I wouldn't really treat Glory Hounds as an Echo game. I just treat it
No,
as
yeah.
I just treat it as a game in the same universe on the other side of the world
Yeah.
with like the figure art. Like, you might notice a couple things in Glory Hounds. Like Carl is actually a comic book writer in Glory Hounds.
Oh, nice.
He writes The Stinger, which is a comic uh Alex reads. But
Huh.
like Cliff's sister has like a descendant also living in the town Alex lives in, and you'll also meet her.
Yeah.
But like other than that, I'm not going to like it's not all going to lead back to Echo or something.
No.
Like the final episode is not going to have them like we must go back to where it began so you can rest easy.
That's good. That's good. That's Oh man, that's good. You know, I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad that that's going to be how it's handled, because a couple of references here, some in-universe whatever, but it needs to be its own thing.
Yes.
Like obviously a game like The Smoke Room is going to be heavily involved in the lore, but like something that isn't should be allowed to be its own fucking thing, for fuck's sake. And I don't imagine there's going to be too many people that are resistant to that idea, but for the few that may be, I you've got 70 fucking Echo games. Let this one be its own thing. You know what I mean?
Fun fact, fun
Mhm.
fact, by the way, it wasn't always like in the Echo universe. Originally, I was going to make it its own thing. Uh, it didn't even take place in the not Netherlands. Originally, it took place in like a generic American city. I even named it Genera City. Like I just went balls deep on all the like silliness and shit. But then like I told Howley about it when he offered to help me like fund it, and he was like, "Well, why don't you have it take place in the Netherlands? Because Howley really likes Howley really likes talking to me about the Netherlands."
Hey, that's awesome.
Uh, So he was like, "Yeah, that's also why Cliff became Dutch, by the way." Howley was like, "Why don't you make him Dutch?" When I talked to him about writing him.
Hey, it's all better for it. It's better
Yeah,
off for it.
originally he was British.
Really? Is that okay? Okay. Brief indulgence here.
Yes,
Talking about myself for a second. Um, my accents are questionable at best.
yeah.
I know where I'm going with this. Um, my voice for Cliff.
I like
I
your voice for Cliff.
I appreciate that. I really do appreciate that. The accent is wrong.
We can't all be winners.
Yeah. That's the nicest way you could have said that. Uh, if I were to try to adjust to make the accent more authentic, it would be a pale imitation at best, because I'm not great at accents. I can try, but at some point I would fear it being seen as disingenuous. Would that be a concern? Obviously, as you know, I've demonstrated plenty of times at this point that I am a woefully uninformed person of the world. So if I were to attempt to make Cliff's accent for my videos more authentically Dutch, would that come across as
Actually, Cliff speaks with the Queen's English accent, like he's very British.
oh really?
But when he's very excited, he kind of slips back into his Dutch accent. He rolls his R's,
Okay.
but for the most part, he speaks like very stuck up
Okay, so
English.
I'm actually there because I've
Yes,
yeah, okay. Um the question does stand though, if I did try to incorporate, say, that when he gets excited and starts to slip into more of a Dutch accent, if I attempted to include that, would that come across as disingenuous or condescending, or would that be seen as a more fitting attempt to be genuine? Because
I think it's
I would only be doing to trying to make it more authentic, or at least try to make it more fair to the character.
I think it's adorable. Just do what you like. Don't worry about offending me or anything. I just think it's amazing that you read our stuff.
Oh, it's a privilege and an honor. It really is. Um, for me, I want to make that clear. I was saying that's a privilege and honor for me, not. It's a privilege and honor for you to have me reading your stuff. God, can you imagine if I was that much of a prick?
Yes.
Oh,
No, no.
Jesus. Uh, we are about to run out of time, so I
Oh,
will. I've had a lot of fun. I hope you have too.
me
Um,
too. I'm
I,
sorry I rambled on a bit too long.
bruh, I think if anyone listens to this and thinks one of us rambled, it's probably yours truly. Uh, uh, when is and like what is the roadmap for the release of Glory Hounds?
We're hoping to have demo out by the first episode out by like February or March
Nice, so not
of
that far
next year.
away.
No, early 2022.
Very nice.
We're just getting a lot of the stuff we're going to need for like multiple episodes together.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good. Like, building up assets and stuff to go forward, so you don't have to start from scratch every time.
Yeah,
Very smart. Very
it's
smart.
it's also like because Glory Hounds isn't going to be like a really expansive setting or a really expansive cast. Like you're
Oh.
going to see a lot of recurring characters and a lot of recurring places. Actually, that's something I haven't really talked about yet. Glory Hounds takes place in Schippersburg, which is basically Amsterdam. It's the city where Cliff comes from,
Mm-hmm.
and in the in the 20 in the late 20th century, they made like a lot of improvements and built like a whole. Basically, it's Amsterdam, but the canals contain entire neighborhoods for people who are aquatic to live. God, that
Nice.
sounded weird.
No, I think that's a very, very fun idea and would make a whole lot of sense given the theme of anthropomorphic animals. The
Yeah,
canals being used in a diegetic way.
yeah. There's also like underwater. The trains run underwater too,
Ooh, that's
so you're going to
interesting.
see a lot of that. And the characters are also going to go underwater in a lot of episodes, and they're going to like. There's a whale villain that's been like shown just yesterday.
Yeah, is that the picture that Star made that you just that you shared with me right before we started recording?
Yes, Yeah,
Ah,
that's
very good.
Ahab.
I was gonna say they had a bit of a JoJo pose there. I was like, oh, very powerful. Well, that's wonderful. That's why I'm very excited to see it. There's so much about this game that I know I'm going to love, and I know a lot of people will too. I can't wait for early 2022 to happen so that we get to experience the first episode of Glory Hounds.
I
And
can't
then,
wait for you to read it. I'm really excited.
and of course, in the meantime, we get to continue to enjoy the cliff updates that are coming out. It's hard for me to keep an eye on which updates coming when. Do we have when is the next cliff update?
I'm expecting it to be like December or January, because like the current Smoke Room update we're working on now is going to be a housekeeping update. We're going to
Okay.
work on a lot of assets, and I think we want to fix up the UI too.
Okay.
And I'm also revising some of the old Cliff route for when the next Cliff update drops. And then
Okay.
after that, there's going to be a Cliff route update.
Very nice. So there's this back half of this year and the beginning of the next one's going to be a busy time for you.
Yeah, for sure. I'm really excited though. I'm almost finished with the script for Glory Hounds, and
Ah,
yeah, we have a dedicated coder now,
nice.
so that's a big help.
I bet so.
Like like RenP coding is something I will never fully understand.
Yeah. Me too, man. I've got a file on my phone of all these ideas for visual novels that I want to do, but
Oh
I
man,
don't
I'd
know.
love to hear about them sometime.
Oh man, I'd be worried of making you. If they're good, then I'd worry you'd be excited. If they're bad, I'd worried you'd find it way too entertaining because I've spent 6 years uh, critiquing and going in and be like, oh, what does this make sense, whatever, and pointing out typos and shit. So I'm like, man, if I
I
ever
mean,
actually put out a build, I'm gonna get crucified.
I mean, like we talked about, I think it should like I know a lot of money goes into making a visual novel, but I also think we shouldn't lose sight of the fun that goes into it, the heart that goes into it. And as long as
Definitely,
you're enjoying what you're making, then like as long as you're enjoying it, as long as people are enjoying it, then like
absolutely.
who cares if it's like a little bit cliched or if like a character calls another character a weird nickname or whatever.
I very much appreciate hearing that. I really do. I really, really do.
I just
Uh,
I
hmm?
just want to make people happy. I like that's all I really want. I don't need like a lot of money. I don't need a lot of fame or fans or whatever. I just hearing people enjoy my stuff is really all that matters to me.
Well, if your goal is making people happy, then you've succeeded and then some.
Aww.
And I want to thank you for being here. I've had a really great time talking to you. I hope we get to do
I've
this
had a great
again
time too.
sometime.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I'm always available.
And I'll put links in the description where people can find the latest stuff for the Smoke Room and for Glory Hounds. People keep an eye out for that. I like to end these long ass podcasts with a generic kind of question, just something small and seemingly trivial for people to comment down below with their answers, so that we can prove that they made it to the end. What small question would you like to ask of this audience here?
Um, what is your favorite Dutch word?
Ooh, your favorite Dutch word. What's your favorite Dutch word?
Um, Goedemorgen.
Udemorha?
Goedemorgen.
Goedemorgen. Oh, is that good morning?
Yeah.
Nice!
You finally starting to pronounce it right.
It's like pulling teeth, and I'm a couple generations out from, you know, West Germany and Sweden, so I've heard it. I've heard some of it before, but it's fuck me if everyone disagrees on how to say it. Hell, my maiden name is Shelsky, and everyone spells that differently. All right. So, is smorgasbord a Dutch word, or is that a different?
I think that's more Scandinavian, probably.
That I was close. Damn it. So yeah, everyone in the comments, let us know what your favorite Dutch word is to prove that you made it all the way to the end. We'll be looking out in the comments for it. And we'll see y'all in the next episode, whenever, however, whatever it may be. I hope to be able to talk to you again, not only on the podcast, but we message each other a lot, and I always enjoy talking to you. I enjoy you thoroughly.
Aww.
And thank you, everyone, for watching and listening. And I hope you all have a nice day. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Woo.